What's up everyone? I hope you're all doing fine today and welcome back to my channel, and this is going to be another live rant or live discussion that we're going to do today. And we're going to be talking about one of the most pressing in fact, and hottest issues in the world. And this is of course the Taliban crisis after the American pullout that created power vacuum in this godforsaken and embattled country. So, as we all know, over the past few days, after the pullout of the Biden administration military of Afghanistan, the Taliban group that has been lurking in the background for 20 years or more than 20 years are back in power. They're back in power, and before that, I'm just gonna be flexing my eyewear. Isn't it cool, right? So it's gonna be really fitting to our discussion for today. So basically, we've heard that a lot of world leaders from Europe, of course, the Great Britain, Germany, and other countries are furious. They're so mad at the incompetence of the creepy pedo Joe Biden administration for causing this crisis in the region, not just in Afghanistan, but of course in the region, because this power vacuum that America has created because of its irresponsible and disastrous pullout is going to lead to anarchy, power struggle, and war. So I don't know if this was intentional on the part of the Biden administration. We've seen and heard and watched so far Biden's latest lies about this crisis that he just created, because as we all know, a month ago he was trying to assure the fake news media, American fake news media, and the global fake news media that everything was taken care of. There's not going to be any crisis after the pullout, that they were able to account for everything, especially in making sure that there's not going to be anyone left behind, and that they're going to be bringing all the equipment and the installations back to America. So if we're gonna check so far, we've seen that President creepy pedo Joe Biden has been blaming President Trump, all right, for this crisis that he had created. And we've seen so far that China is now lurking in the background. So it first lurked in the background, and now it's playing a big role in this new order in Afghanistan. So China is like a vulture that is going to benefit. We hope that it's going to benefit, because definitely it's going to be a really disastrous order in Afghanistan, just like the disaster that the Ayatollah Khomeini in Iran had created in 1979, when the European powers installed the Ayatollah as the new leader in Iran. So it's really a big issue, but basically what we're going to talk about, because I haven't heard and seen any Filipino commentarists or intellectuals talking about this. It's a really complicated issue. I would like to really check and discuss and talk about the impact of this power vacuum in the potential Chinese occupation. I'm gonna say occupation or partnership with Taliban in Afghanistan on the region, especially in the whole Asia as a continent. So is it gonna impact not just the region, but also Chinese relations in the Southeast Asia, especially the whole Asian continent? We don't know yet, but as we've seen so far, China has been doing some initial moves in order to partner with Afghanistan, the Taliban government. So basically, we've seen that a few countries have already welcomed the new Taliban regime as the quote-unquote official government of this embattled country. But there are things that we need to consider really before we get to the main issue that I would like to talk to you about, which is the Chinese expansion in the West Philippine Sea and its threat to invade Taiwan. So we've heard so far, we've seen the news. These are official news, okay? I don't just trust the American media, but I've seen so far some news from Japan and in Asia, news outlets in Asia, confirming that China indeed made threats of invading or reoccupying, Taiwan, because we all know that Taiwan is like the quote unquote province of China. So things that we need to consider, of course, is that this power vacuum that Biden or disastrous Biden pullout created has exposed the weakness of America, and that's the reason why China is so happy that America has humbled. So we have a news about this actually, that China is happy to see America is humbled in Afghanistan. So it does not love the Taliban, but it is ready to do business with them. So it refers to America. The it refers to not America, but China. China loves to do business with the Taliban. So we're going to be speaking about oil, because Afghanistan is definitely rich in natural resources. So just like the Iraq war again, so it was America that spent a lot of money, hundreds of billions of money for the Iraq war and the resulting occupation of Iraq. And we all know that because of Iraq, the Afghanistan was also invaded, because according to George Bush and his intel men, that they were like harboring or protecting Osama bin Laden. That's the reason why America had to also invade Afghanistan. So after this invasion and occupation of Iraq, so it turned out that China became the beneficiary, became the oil partner of the new government of Iraq. So same story with the latest pullout of the U.S. of Afghanistan. So China is going to be the beneficiary of this pullout. So that's one thing. Another thing is that China and Russia are going to fill the power vacuum that America has created. And this reminds us of the hostage crisis in Iran in 1979, right, during the Carter era. And that's the reason why Ronald Reagan won the presidency against Carter. And one thing that we need to consider, of course, is that the U.S. weapons and equipment and installations that Biden-led, military left in Afghanistan, what's going to happen to them? So imagine, the crisis that can create in terms of China and Russia trying to reverse engineer those military technologies that Biden military left in Afghanistan. So that's one thing. And I've heard and seen some comments so far online that a lot of people all over the world are worried that China and Russia are, including of course the Taliban terrorist organization, are going to benefit from this left behind military equipment and technologies. And this is going to be another Iran, right? Iran. Okay, what I mean by that is that, as we all know, the 1979 revolution in Iran led to the ascendancy of the Ayatollah administration or regime, right? The cleric regime. But of course, Iran is different from the Taliban, because Iran is a Shia dominated country, whereas Afghanistan is a Sunni dominated country. So this is one thing that we need to learn as well in order for us to understand the conflict in the Middle East. Why is it that Iran is the enemy of others, countries in the region, in the Middle East, like Iran versus Saudi Arabia, Iran versus UAE, etc. And they are both Muslims. It's because we have what we call Shia and Sunni Muslims. And if we're gonna check further, since Taliban is a Sunni Muslim organization. The majority of Muslims in the Philippines are Sunni, and in fact, the Jemaah Islamiyah, Maote, Muslim terrorist groups, and other terror groups in the Philippines are allied, or they're like pledging allegiance to Al Qaeda and the Taliban, right? So these are things that we're gonna discuss in the future probably, and I don't know whether, again, like I said, whether this is intentional on the part of the Biden administration. We've heard so far his lies or reasoning as to whether he did this disastrous and irresponsible pull out, that we need to pull our military out of the region. We cannot rule Afghanistan forever. I agree, all right? I agree that it's impossible to govern Afghanistan, considering that this country, including other countries in the Middle East, has been at war not just for centuries but for 1,000 of years, right? Because of religion. That's one thing that some other, so-called intellectuals and commentators need to understand. This is not just about politics or about land or real estate. This is actually about culture and religion. And I've seen this video of Lee Kuan Yew saying, this is not about conflict really. It's actually about culture. If I may need to further interpret his statements on his interview with Charlie Ross. And another thing that we need to consider is the impact of this power struggle, the power vacuum, and then power struggle on the region and in Southeast Asia and the whole continent of Asia as well. So how it's going to impact the relations in our Southeast Asian region, and is it going to embolden China? Because we've seen that China has been making some bold moves in order to partner with the Taliban, and we've seen so far that a lot of people in China were like concerned, but not really people, but some kind of establishments or news outlets, probably the state media. They were concerned that why is it that you are partnering with a terrorist group that has linked to Eastern Turkestan, which has been blamed for the terrorist attack in one of Chinese provinces. Alright, so I said earlier that the Taliban is a Sunni Muslim group.